If you have any questions now, please do put them in the question and answer box. I have a few that are coming in advance, and actually I do have a couple here already. So this is Kimberly, says, I'm due to have my baby in 4 weeks and have a place in London next April. Is it going to be possible to build up my strength to train for it, given the advice you've given about recovery times? I've never been a fast runner, and my goal would be just to complete it. So if you're having your baby in 4 weeks, we're looking at about 11 months. It's certainly not impossible. I think, go back to what I've said, if you're looking, I think, again, because you said your goal is actually about completing it rather than completing it in a particular time, I think that's a much more realistic goal to have. Maybe the year after you can look at wanting to build on that time. Just follow those stages that I've talked about. You know, be positive, see what happens at the birth. Hopefully that will be as straightforward as it can be. But even if you have the C-section, again, as I said to you, look at the fact that within 12 months, you should be back to running at the level you were before. So it may be that perhaps you don't have quite the base of fitness that you would want to run the time that you might have run had you not had the baby. But if you work on that pelvic floor, if you work on the core control, if you allow the time for the recovery and then gradually build up the training, you should have a relatively good chance of being able to cover the distance. But I think be realistic in the actual time that you want to do and focus on that goal of completing it. But also be prepared that things may not go as smoothly as you want. So just be mindful and be kind to yourself. I had a few questions in advance. So one lady, Lindsay, was talking about, is there an effective way to activate and warm up before you leave the house? She actually said while holding the baby. Probably not while holding the baby, but certainly actually there are warm-ups that you can do indoors. So you can maximise the time when you leave the house and your time you need the childcare to actually do your running. I'm quite happy to share a good kind of indoor warm-up that I give to some of the athletes I coach, even those who don't have childcare issues. I will share that with Lindsay, no problem at all. There's another one about nutrition and breastfeeding. Is there anything particular I need to focus on? Again, I think I've talked about that largely around refueling is really important. And then we've got another question here. My hormones, I tend to have a red face and get a shortness of breath. Is that to do with my hormones? I'm not 100% sure whether the red face and the shortness of breath as such would be down to hormones. I suspect it probably is more related to lack of fitness. Obviously, as I said, the blood volume will take a period of time to reduce down to pre-levels, and your heart rate will also take time to reduce down to pre-pregnancy levels. So it might be that's why you're feeling more short of breath than you did before. But in terms of whether that's actually directly related to hormones, I wouldn't know, but I would imagine that's a process of fitness over time. Krishna, how do you tell someone who's adamant they want to run before 6 weeks, and what are the implications as a run leader coach if you allow it? It's a really difficult one, this one. I think you can only strongly advise people. I think it probably depends. I would certainly give them the information that I've talked about around all of the recovery aspects of that first 6 week period and why it's so important, particularly the information around building the core control, building the pelvic floor, and the potential long-term health implications for that person if they don't put that in place first. In terms of the implications of one leader and a coach, if you allow it, I suppose it is difficult if somebody turns up. I would try and have that conversation beforehand with them. And if they do, then I would, again, suggest very strongly that they have a very slimmed down version of the session. Encourage them to run at a very low intensity, low pace, and potentially cut back quite dramatically what you might give the group as a whole to do. Obviously, again, it depends how you structure your session, whether it's possible for somebody to do less of it. But it's trying to stress actually the whole well-being and the recovery aspects of it. Tom, we've had some recent postpartum mothers in our club. The most recent is 7 to 8 weeks. Any tips on how to broach the topic sensitively with them to ensure they get what they need from us as coaches, especially as a male coach? I do appreciate as a man discussing the finer points of stress incontinence, prolapse and breastfeeding are probably quite tricky. But on the other hand, I think, if you can, I think I'm quite happy to share some of these slides with you, Tom. That perhaps might be one way around it to try and show, give you something to kind of structure a discussion around some of the considerations that somebody needs to take. Definitely, I think even as a man, I think you can talk about pelvic floor. I think you can talk about core engagement. Those are absolutely, it's better sometimes to just be very upfront about what the issues are and what they need to be. Perhaps some of the more sensitive issues around breastfeeding you might want to broach in a different way. Jane, can you show the indoor warm-up? Yes, absolutely. I will do that, Jane. If you email me afterwards, my email will be on the last slide. I will put that up in a minute. I will make sure if you email me, I will get back to you with that. Livy, pelvic floor. Again, as I say, I think if you go onto the NHS website, again, I can send you a link to it, and NCT as well. They talk about the pelvic floor. I don't know if you've ever done Pilates, but it's the same kind of thing. It's almost, I think sometimes it's about trying to find where your pelvic floor is and what it should feel like. But often it's that sensation of if you try and stop yourself mid-flow when you're going to the toilet, then that often is that kind of feeling of drawing in from below and holding is the kind of exercise that you want to do. But that's not the best description. I appreciate that. I will send you an email about that. Lisa, do you think coaches should work closely with physios and appropriate training Pilates teachers? Yes, Pilates is fantastic. Just what I was trying to poorly describe to Livy. Pilates is actually all about engaging core and the pelvic floor. So strongly encourage people to Pilates. Working with physios, yes, I have a group of physios, some guys called Performance Team. I work with them all the time. Actually, Mark Buckingham, one of the physios, helped me through my pregnancies. I think if you can work with physios, it would be so beneficial to the runners that you coach to do that. And I think it would give you confidence as well in that you are suggesting the right exercises at the right stage for that person. Alison, it's not a question, but I had a recent C-section. The NHS physiotherapist, when I got very excited when I said I was a runner, spoke to me in depth about how to return to running. Wow, that's brilliant. And sent me a pictogram, training plans and videos. Yeah, 5 to 6 months recovery before proper training. Absolutely, totally, well done to that physio for, giving you really realistic expectations and giving you that support. That's absolutely brilliant. So it was a new element of their support working and would welcome more females to discuss it and feedback. Yeah, Alison, if you can share that, if you can email me with that, that would be absolutely brilliant. I'm sure people would really appreciate me sharing that on to them. So Alison, if you can email me with that, and if anybody wants what Alison's got to share, then please do, and I can pass that on. I'm just so glad that you got really good support from a physio around it. I think that's absolutely brilliant, and that's really what we want to hear. So my email address is at the bottom there, jwilkinson@englandathletics.org. Yeah, I will. Please do message me. I will share some slides with you if that's helpful to structure any discussion that you want to have with your athlete. And as I say, please do email me because anything I can do to help. And those people who've asked for the warm up, let me know. Likewise, if people want, as I say, I do work actually closely with some physios who've worked well in my own pregnancy and with some of the runners I've coached as well. So again, I'm happy to recommend those people if that would help.